Chapter 231, Public Law 1975 entitled Open Public Meetings Act. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided as specified in the Act. Proper notice of this public meeting was provided in the notice of January 5th, 2015. Said notice was posted at the entrance of the Board of Education offices, mailed to the Nutley Sun, Star Ledger, North Jersey Herald News, and the Nutley Journal. Mailed to the Nutley Township Clerk. Advertised in the Nutley Sun on January 15, 2015, and to the Herald News on January 24, 2015. Posted on the district website. This is an official meeting. In consideration for all present, in recognition of the importance of these proceedings, it's requested that all cell phones, pagers be turned off, silent for the duration of the meeting. Thank you. Please stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Monticello?
Here.
Mrs. Stanchek-Martin? Here. Mr. Ferraro?
Here.
Mr. Klein?
Here.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Here.
Mr. Riley?
Here.
Ms. Russo? Here. Mr. Scalera?
Here.
Mr. Spizzato?
Here. Okay, can I get a motion for approval of the
I make a
minutes?
motion to approve the minutes as mailed to the list.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Correspondence, we have none. Presentation. Are you ready to go with, okay, Nutley Community Preservation Partnership, Ms. Beal?
Good evening, everyone. I'm with the Nutley Community Preservation Partnership, and we are here tonight to present the awards for the tree contest essays. The NCPP started last year working with the school to do these essays with the 9th grade environmental science class. They worked with a student-developed rubric and studied the trees, visited a phenomenal garden in Nutley owned by Mr. Silas Monsier. He was very gracious about opening his garden to the students. And Graham Hardy gave them a tour and history of the trees. There's a number of heritage trees there, so it gave them a tremendous opportunity to see what myriad trees look like together, different environments, and how they interact with each other. A lot of trees you wouldn't normally see in this area. So it really made a difference in terms of the impact on the students regarding the trees. And then they went ahead and did their essay. I need to comment that the quality of the essays this year was much improved over last year. The writing was a lot better. We were very happy about that. I want to thank a few people. Mostly Ms. Paul, who did a tremendous amount of work putting all of this together. The tree committee itself, the folks who worked with me to grade all the essays, we did 50 essays. Gwen Canfield, Graham Hardy was also involved before he left for a tour of India, Bill Irvine, and Dory Kopnick. It's not something that we normally do. So to sit and process 50 essays and determine which ones meet the criteria in order to be a winner was a lot of fun, but also a great challenge for us. And we were happy to do it. But it takes a lot of effort to make this come off. And we started last fall. So to be here tonight, we're happy to bring this to conclusion. Carrie, you wanted to talk about the website.
So we lived and learned from last year. And just to correct you, it was not just 9th grade environmental science students, it's 9th through 12th graders. And last year, the students developed the rubric, and they were really unsure of what they were supposed to do because they had nothing to base their writing off of. So even though we told them it had to be a tree in Nutley, we received essays of California red oak trees, even though they didn't exist in Nutley. So we learned a little bit this year, and Mr. Hardy said, well, why don't they come to Mr. Monso's gardens to see what the trees in Nutley really look like and what survives the best here. And with that, we went on a week of field trips. After school, the kids volunteered, and we walked to the gardens on Barker's Place. And after the first day, the participation was so great that Miss Solomon and Miss McDonald's digital photography students heard about it, and they came on board. And then Mr. Kelly was nice enough to have his students come and video the gardens in case any of the students that couldn't make it, so they could see it. And we put that up on my website. And then the kids took the rubric that they designed and wrote their essays about trees in Nutley this year. And then we went a step further using the technology that we have, and we introduced the people from the preservation to Google Docs, which didn't work so well this year, but we're hoping that next year it will go a little bit better. We created guest accounts for them and shared all the essays with them. So when Mr. Munzer was, or Mr. Hardy was in England, he was able to grade them while he was on the plane. And then they put all the data into Performance Matters, so we have it to kind of go between last year and this year. And now we have our winners, so thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
There's a lot of people involved this year.
Yes, and I didn't make mention of Miss Nix, who's, two of her students here tonight are two of the three winners. We'll start with our third place winner, Sadman Samir. He wrote about Silas's garden and focused on the Himalayan birch trees and also their presence in Japan. And he had a very spiritual aspect of his essay. It was very interesting and very well done. And we were very happy to award you the third place prize. In second place was Jocelyn Lopez. What grade are you in? 10th grade, okay. Jocelyn also visited the garden, and her essay, she wrote from the perspective of the tree, which was very interesting. Everybody found that to be a lot of fun. Her teacher was Miss Nix, and she wrote just your typical oak tree in her own voice. And it really gave a whole total different picture of what it's like to be a tree in Nutley. And for that, we award you the second prize. Our first prize winner is Abigail Gardner, who could not be here. She's at a hockey game. She also wrote in her own voice about northern oak tree. So we want to thank everyone again. We look forward to doing this next year. Each time we do it, it's totally different. So thank you again. Thank you, Board Ed. Thank you, Superintendent. We really appreciate that you can do this. And thank you, Mr. Bain.
Okay, Mr. Capella.
Oh, there it goes. It's on. I'll just get started as do that. The Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights. As anti-bullying coordinator, twice a year I have to report to the Board of Education, Mr. Lazovic and I, on different statistics as well as what we're doing as a district regarding our anti-bullying efforts. I think I have to go over there. Just as a quick refresher, when we talk about anti-bullying, the acronym is HIV, HIB, which stands for Harassment, Intimidation, and Bullying. Once again, refresher, for it to be considered HIV, it has to be motivated by a characteristic, an actual or perceived characteristic, or any other distinguishing characteristic. The location is another requirement in the definition. It has to be on school property, any school-sponsored event on a bus, or it could be off school grounds, but for it to be considered HIB off school grounds, it has to have some type of substantial disruption, interference, or affects the rights of the student educationally. Last, it also has to impact the student, either physically, emotionally, putting them in harm, insulting or demeaning, or creates a hostile educational environment. Here are the characteristics where someone could be viewed as being bullied. There are also the other distinguishing characteristics, and just to give you some examples, it could be height, weight, socioeconomic status, hair color, they have a pimple on their nose, freckles, the way someone walks, the way someone talks, anything that distinguishes them from someone else. Who is part of our anti-bullying staff? Our investigators at each school are listed here. They're also part of the school safety community. They lead the anti-bullying efforts for the district. What are statistics from September through December? We had a total of 46 cases that were investigated, that were brought to our attention. As you can see, the numbers to the right, high school had 22, middle school had 8, Lincoln, Radcliffe, Ramapo had 4 cases that were investigated, Springboard had 3, and Washington had 1. In a breakdown of those cases, at the elementary level, 4 of them were considered HIB, 2 at Radcliffe, and 2 at Yantacaw. Out of the 4 cases that were confirmed as HIB, these were the characteristics where the student or students were targeted. In one case, the student could be targeted for a number of characteristics. Just doesn't have to mean if there is one case, it's only one characteristic. So as you can see, mental, physical, or sensory disability were 4. There are 2 other distinguishing characteristics, and 1 for gender. At the high school level, we had 22 cases. 5 of them were considered HIB. At the middle school level, we had 8 cases that were investigated. 3 of them were considered HIB. Of those 8 cases, as you can see, here's a breakdown of how the students were targeted in those cases. 1 for race, religion, color, national origin, sexual orientation, mental physical disability, 2 for other distinguishing characteristic, and 3 for gender. What are we doing as a school district? This is just a really brief snapshot of what we're doing. Training staff, our new staff training in August. I meet with the anti-bullying specialist. By law, you have to meet with them a minimum of twice. We met twice already. I'm part of Bergen County Association for Anti-Bullying Coordinators, where I attend regular sessions just to keep up to date of what's going on. Providing staff, students with positive praise, not just within our district, but here, every time we come to a meeting, we're always announcing our accomplishments of the district, of our students. So we have a guidance newsletter. I maintain an HIB link on the district website. Preventative measures as well as interventions for an individual student. There are sometimes we enforce our code of conduct, which is there could be discipline involved in cases. Support services for an alleged aggressor or victim through the guidance department, special services. For us, it's not just providing a discipline, and it's just all punitive. For us, it's about educating students, having them work on apology letters, research projects on what they did, and how it could have impacted another student. Personal reflection essays are really big for us, so we want students to really think about what they did, and then not just what they did, but how it impacted the other student. Many times we have the Affirmative Action Committee get involved in providing us with different ideas for personal reflections or research projects. Other miscellaneous things we've done, meeting with the students together, having parent conferences, little things like a locker seat schedule change, monitoring students at different locations in the buildings. Classroom levels, we're always educating using every opportunity we can to educate students. I was here at the last Board of Ed meeting, and Ms. Egan and I spoke about our advisory period once a month, where we do a lot of our lessons. It's not just about an anti-bullying effort, but it's also about character education, educating our students to be kind, respectful, productive citizens. At the school level, once again, a snapshot. Clubs are very active, assemblies on character education, fundraisers for the community, creates a sense of citizenship, theme days, spirit weeks. At the community level, we have a mentoring program called CHAMP. We have a Shuttle Out Seniors. We have the Nutley Municipal Alliance Committee, which is a committee within town that sponsors many different functions for the school district. We have the Nutley Athletics, where each team is required to conduct a community service project. So once again, it's not just about anti-bullying, but it's also about working on a sense of community and citizenship. For Week of Respect, which is another requirement of the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights, we participate in National Stomp Out Bullying Day, where everyone wore a blue shirt on October 7th. We had PA announcements, exhibits, media specialists had displays. At the elementary level, a K-6 program, reading the book, The Potato Chip Champ. They read it actually electronically. And students, the whole book was based upon kindness and respect. And not only did they discuss it in class, but then they had to go home and discuss it with their parents. They had an assignment. And each student created a patch, a kindness patch, that they created a paper quilt in the classroom. We had a Circle of Strength activity, which you can see the banner still stands as soon as you walk into the middle school in the main lobby. At the high school, there's numerous classroom lessons and club-led activities. As part of the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights, there's many things that we have to do as a district, Mr. Lazovic and I. So in January, we just completed the ITP, which stands for Investigations, Trainings, and Programs report that we have to submit to the state twice a year. We also, the state provided us our copy or our report of our school self-assessment for determining HIP grades. Basically, we assess ourselves in July. I reviewed the grades with the Board of Education. And basically, this December, the state provided us back, gave us back those numbers. So the numbers haven't changed. I know it's very difficult to see, but it is on the district website. They haven't changed since I presented in July. One of the things which we always I believe is always an area of focus that we always need to continually work on is core element number 1, which always talks about programs, approaches, and initiatives, because we're constantly changing our school district. So we always have to keep up to date and do different programs to deal with the different things that are coming out throughout the school year, because every year is different. Every year is different students, and there will be different trends or patterns that we see that we need to address. That's it. Thank you.
Mr. McCullough, one thing, on an offline meeting, myself, Mr. Carnello, and Ryan Klein met with a parent who's very involved, and I guess is active in the CHAMP program, and was looking to expand on it. And could I put her in touch with you to...
Sure, Ms. Casletti, yeah, definitely.
She's looking to, I guess, push that a little bit further.
Sure, yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Charlie broke the microphones. Next, we have program review of the library meeting. Mr. Levine.
Ian, it looks like the light's out. It looks like the light's out of the box. Yeah, the light's out, so you can...
Maybe that's where the heat went?
All right. Good evening, everybody. Probably seen a number of program reviews so far, so this is the third for the year, library media. So part of the strategic plan with curriculum, we're in the fourth year right now of the process. We started, we went through the program review for library media specialists, talking about the process, what we've done, surveys we've done, and plans for the library media program within the district. Just a snapshot of what the process looks like. So starting year 4 right now, so we did the investigative work to figure out what we need in order to make improvements to the program. And I'll get to the recommendations in a little bit. So the goals, program review, presenting the description of the program, what we currently offer in all 7 buildings, 5 elementary schools, middle school, and high school. Currently how we schedule, because the elementary schools are different than the middle school and the high school. Review of the curriculum, instruction, some of the resources we use, and some professional development, as well as I mentioned before, the recommendations for the library media program moving forward. So state regulations under Administrative Code 6A talks about the library media specialist. I won't read this, you can find it online. So the AASL is American Association of School Librarians. They came out with standards for 21st century learners. So it's very similar to what's happening now with core content. The standards are inquire, think critically, gain knowledge, draw conclusions, make informed decisions, apply this knowledge to new situations, create new knowledge, share this knowledge, participate ethically, productively, pursue personal aesthetic growth. So how this is done through research, using the library and the library media specialists in research, and how do we help use these new skills, these 21st century skills, introduce them, surf the internet responsibly. So these are some of the things that we are going to be focusing on part of the program. So in the elementary school, the library media, there's a set schedule. They see the kindergarten through 2nd grade students twice a week. They meet with the 3rd through 6th grade students 1 time a week. It's considered a special. So teachers bring them down, bring the students down, and it's a prep period. This is where they do reading skills, read alouds, work with computers, technology skills. Recently doing park training and emphasis on preparation for park. In the secondary, it's more of a flexible schedule. Ms. Bresman and Ms. Stendorty, they oversee all the operations of the Library Media Center. Teachers will request time. If you go to Ms. Bresman's website at the high school, you'll see there's a schedule, a calendar. You can request time to bring teachers can bring their class in, have Ms. Bresman help with any type of research skill, finding books, looking up resources, etc. So everything's available on her calendar. Ms. Stendorty is also available for bringing your class in for any type of help for research skills, etc. as well. So in November, we sent out a survey to all staff members within the district. We wanted to find out about the program. How's it working for teachers? Is the mission for the library media specialists, are we meeting that mission? Is there a collaboration amongst teachers and the library media specialists? Is this information literacy actually happening, and how's it happening? And how they feel that it's happening between collaboration with the teachers and the library media specialists. And is there nurturing that love of the media? So we got a very good response of over 100 staff members responded, and just a number of slides of some of the responses. 97% of staff agree strongly, or the Library Media Center's mission is to ensure students and staff are effective users of information. So these are staff members' perception of the Library Media Center and the work that's being done there. 94% staff strongly agree that the collaboration is the heart of the effective school library media practice. 70% of the staff feel that there's not enough time for collaboration with media specialists. They really want to have more time to collaborate with them. So this is something that we're going to work on with regards to recommendations moving forward. And when asked, have they actually worked with a media specialist? 50% have, 50% have not. Integrating research skills and technology skills into the classroom. This is one of the key functions that the library media specialists do in the media center. 71% feel that the media specialists are doing a good to excellent job integrating research skills. 69% feel that the staff is doing an excellent job aligning the skills to subject disciplines and tying some of these technology skills or research skills into other areas like language arts, social studies, science, health. So, the overall view and perception is good for the other subject disciplines as well. And finally, with the nurturing the students' love of reading. 85% of the staff feel that the media specialists are nurturing the students' love of reading. I'm not going to read all of these, but some of the open-ended questions that some of the schools, it's overcrowded, no free periods to do collaborative projects. These are some of the responses from the teachers. Media specialists will do whatever is necessary, always there to help, helping with conducting research, a good job. The size and setup of the library media center is not conducive for learning. Major overhaul is due. Some of the, if you've been to the high school media center / hallway, you'd see that. So, part of the review, the curriculum was revised in 2010. We will be doing a curriculum rewrite starting this year. Progression from level to level, growing upon the skills based upon the AASL standards and core content standards. The assessments, we've already begun measuring growth. We've started doing common assessments in the elementary grades based upon different library topics and assessing the skills throughout the years and throughout the growth of the grade level. Looking at instruction, content-based approach, skills-based approach, looking at these different skills, MLA formatting, research skills, proper research skills, using Google instead of just typing in a keyword and finding the first thing that pops up, but using Google for what it's built to do, citing properly, bibliographies, and also discussing plagiarism. What is plagiarism? What is not plagiarism? How to differentiate between the two and write a proper paper without plagiarism. As well as using the different resources available in the library. We've got World Book Online. We've got all these databases that we offer, and they're currently, the library media specialists are currently using these and training the students and staff on all these various resources and doing a better job of really selling all these great resources that we have available. And also looking at from growth at different ages and different levels. So some of our recommendations that we found based upon program review. Budgeting and funds, allowing the library media specialists, especially in the elementary schools, to have control of their budget, break out the tech purchasing. I've got a number of different budget lines, break out specifically the library media tech budget for its own purchasing line, for renewal of subscriptions, for software, for different programs that are needed, as well as helping with the books, all the Reader's Workshop books, and having the libraries available for a Reader's Workshop for staff and students to be able to check out all these different titles. Curriculum revision, aligned to the Common Core, tied to the AASL standards, as well as continuing the technology infusion, all these skills for Google Docs, Microsoft Office, Park skills, etc. Working on scheduling, discuss different ways to possibly do scheduling. There's talk about see how this would actually go, but based upon the schedule in elementary schools. But the other thing is to look at the facilities. How do we improve the facilities? Because not all of the libraries in each of the buildings are the same. As I said, the high school library can certainly use a bit of an overhaul. So these are our recommendations.
Any questions?
Mr. President,
Questions?
I don't want to go all the way back to your graphs, but the one graph showed that 50% of the teachers had not used the library media at all. You're telling me that 50% of our teachers on staff have not interacted with the library media? From what the survey came out.
Or it's either doing some sort of collaboration or doing a lesson or doing some sort of lesson at times.
Then I would hope that one of your recommendations would be
To increase the
to increase that
collaboration.
use. I mean, it's a valuable resource, and if there's a reason that, and I'm sure there are legitimate reasons that 50% of our teachers aren't using it, but it seems like it is a valuable resource that should be used more.
And you're absolutely right. And, a lot of the skills that are going out specifically, especially in the elementary schools, librarians are looking at the curriculum of all of the classroom teachers, finding areas where they can help support the learning that's going on in the classroom. So they're doing a project in, Native American Indians or New Jersey, using that content to help.
I would think in the grammar schools, it's used probably a lot more than you might find it in the middle school or even high school. But it's still a valuable resource that needs to be addressed.
Absolutely. And on top of that, the media specialists are also a push and effort reaching out to staff. What can I do to help you? Or this is what I also, this is what I need from you. How can I help you with certain areas? So there's a push to reach out to assist.
Right.
Okay, any questions? Thank you, Ms. Quinn. Okay, we're ready for the superintendent's report. Ms. Velazquez.
Thank you, Mr. Pizzata. Good number of things happened since our last meeting. First and foremost, the Nutley Marching Band is going to be honored by the Essex County Freeholders. They were scheduled to be honored previously. That has been rescheduled, but they have me down the Hall of Records in Newark for their achievements this year, so that's exciting. As well, the William Patterson Art Competition for 2015. In that competition, two of our high school students, Chris Carrera and Joe Feck, who are awarded winning medals based on their work. Their videos are actually online, you can see. So that's exciting as well. I want to thank Ms. Egan and the middle school staff. We had our 6th grade parent orientation, and for the first time, they changed things up a little bit and had our students run the presentation. So part of our middle school is teaching the kids to be self-directed, self-sufficient. And they're getting up and talking about the 7th and 8th grade, they're talking about the middle school model, what it's like, and answering parents' questions. We had approximately 150 parents and 30 staff members in attendance, so thanks to everyone who helped put that together. A number of us were in Mr. Kelly's room on the 5th. Thursday was National Signing Day for athletes looking to play sports at the collegiate level, and Victoria Keeley signed a letter of intent to play for Ryder College Soccer. So congratulations to her and to her coach. It's a wonderful thing to see, and our kids, selling in so many different areas. Continuing a little bit from Mr. Capello, New Jersey CAP, Child Abuse Prevention Program that we are part of at the elementary level, had their building sessions the last week of January. Using role plays and guided group discussions, putting kids into specific situations so they could talk about these situations safely and hopefully make better decisions moving forward. The program has been running for a number of years now, and get some really good feedback from the kids specifically, but also from the teachers. I'm going to skip the part piece until the end, actually. Professional development continues. Language arts workshops, and Mr. Vanny was here before. Our science training for grades, teachers in grades 5 through 8 taking place the week of February 23rd this week. Again, we're trying to provide that throughout the year before teachers actually see the kids they're going to be teaching, giving them time with a trainer to come in, walk through the entire unit, all the materials, resources, assessments, and the rest, talk through instructional strategies before they have to teach it. And that way they're better prepared going in. A couple of big things. Registration information. Kindergarten registration starting next week from today, March 2nd. Taking place at the high school cafeteria. It's always fun for us administrators as we watch those numbers increase every day. Registration packets are available on the district website. Notification was sent home to the elementary schools, but again, for parents, please take advantage of this as soon as you possibly can. Preschool registration will take place later in the spring. All the information will be issued out on the website, and we'll make further announcements. And again, just as an update to the board, high school registration and middle school registration continue throughout the year. We keep receiving more and more students who are coming in at higher levels, transferring in from other districts. Kindergarten orientations, we have 2 currently scheduled. Spring Garden, which I'll make these announcements moving forward, but again, they're on the website. April 21st at 1:30, and Washington School, April 22nd at 9 a.m. Update the board again last week. Ms. Yeamans, Dr. Ryan, and I met with really only one representative from not our county team for our QSAC evaluation. They had gone over all of our DPRs on everything that was submitted, and based on that and recommendations from the state, only sent Ms. Maria Mendez, who's actually now in Union County, to review our instruction program. So we spent the better part of that day with her. She and Mr. Lanzi, who's overseeing special services, will be back on March 11th to do the classroom walkthroughs, and at that point we'll complete the entire circuit, if you will, of the QSAC process, and we'll await our final scores. Our next negotiated meeting, which we have to talk about, is going to be rescheduled. A quick legal update, Mr. Fallon, the consultant, third-party attorney that we hired for affirmative action, notified me that we will have his finalized report next Wednesday, at which point we'll make available to the board. Re-registration. Mr. Spizzato, Mr. Kaczynski, Mr. Carnicello, Mr. Farrar, our board council, and I met on Wednesday afternoon to meet with all parents who were notified to bring their appropriate documents to re-register students. At this point in time, we currently have 15 students who remain improperly registered. Official letters have already gone out certifying what they need to do over the next 21 days. If we do not receive appropriate documentation, they are automatically disenrolled in the board. After tonight's resolution, we take no action. Once those 21 days pass, we'll have a final presentation on exactly what happened between now and then with those 15 students, and more importantly, what has happened since we started the process in September. We'll make that presentation at the second March 14th. Key upcoming dates, I'll leave it to Mr. Scalera to talk about it, but our fundraiser this Friday for the Nutley High School Extreme Makeover Fitness Center Edition. We are turning one of our lesser used locker room spaces into a fitness center that can be used by all students both during the day and after school. The fundraiser is this Friday at the Elks Club, and I'm sure Mr. Blair will go over some more information. Our March Madness, as always, with Third Half Club, kicking off March 19th. Across the district, certainly all the kids coming here to the middle school, it's a great event to see them play. And then, as always, a number of our important events are always found on the website. I did want to make one more announcement to clarify some things. Today was our first day of the new park assessment at the high school. We had a lot of people to thank. Mr. Levine for certain, Mr. Diemeister, Dr. Galani, Mrs. Mehta, who flies under the radar sometimes but was everywhere today, certainly administrators and the faculty of the high school. This is something new for us, this idea of assessing online. I will say that in my own opinion, given everything, the fact that it's new and we've never done anything like this before, I think it went extremely well. And that was due really to the collaboration of all the professionals, and really to thank the kids. It was an exciting morning, to say the least, with a number of us running around and dealing with technical issues, and no one was stressed. No one seemed to lose heart or have a negative reaction. We had one of the kids actually in one classroom figure out the problem all by herself and fix the whole class. So that was interesting. I want to thank the Nutley Sun for always helping us communicate. There were some questions that were had. We're always struggling with communication, and we always appreciate people helping to get the message out. I wanted to clarify a number of things. Our infrastructure trials at the elementary schools are taking place this week, which again, like we did at the high school, is us testing our system. And again, thank you to the board. We started work on infrastructure and our devices years ago, not for park, to be clear. We did this because we wanted the infrastructure that could support the kinds of devices we want to see in the classroom all the time. And that's what our devices are for. The purchases that we've made in technology have not been in pursuit of park or an expectation of park, have nothing to do with park. It was specific so that our students have the tools at their hands, the teachers have the tools that they need in class to create the kind of environment our kids should be learning in, because other kids are learning in those environments. So those trials are moving forward. We keep going back on something simple with the park assessment, which is headphones. Simply put, we encourage every student during the testing days to bring in their own headphones. We have plenty. District supplied, but bring in the ones you're comfortable with. My daughter brought in her zebra blue fuzzy ones because those are the ones that she likes to wear. But bring in your own headphones. And so we're asking parents and students to bring wired headphones, if I can say specifically. We're looking for wired headphones. A couple key things about parks specifically. The first is there's a lot of questions that have been going around about opt-out, board policy, district process, and the rest. Per the state, which is why we run these assessments, there is no such thing as opt-out. There is no such thing as refusal. However, what I have made clear, what our administrators have made clear, is that no student would be forced to actually assess. While we are required to give students, afford students, the opportunity to assess. No student has been prompted, encouraged, cajoled, recommended to assess. So case in point today, we had a number of students, and I was in a great many rooms personally, that for whatever reason either finished really quickly or chose not to assess, at which time the proctors were able to confirm that they had no devices that they could access the test through, and they could read material not related to the test quietly. We are required to make that happen. I was asked by Ms. Facetious here, and I want to thank her as well. She has her shirt on, your main comp, right? She asked me a question last week. How exactly you phrased it, but what my greatest concern regarding the park was. And she looked at me a little funny when I gave her my answer. It wasn't the technology, it certainly wasn't the scores. My greatest concern is that as we've grown as a state testing our students, we have always taken these big strides, whether it was from the earlier tests to the GEPA and the HSPT to the HESPA and now the park. And every time we've made this transition, the assessments themselves have improved. And because of that, we've gotten better information. What we've done with the information, or have not done with the information, is really on us as districts. And a lot of what's going around pointing at the assessment makers or the assessments themselves or the political motives or et cetera, what they're really talking about is what we have or have not done as an industry. How we're better helping students or whether we're not. My answer to her was that I was concerned that with everything swirling around this test, we were going to miss a significant opportunity to take a positive and meaningful step forward in how we assess and therefore service our students. I think these tests, from what they're telling us, and again, I'm not pro-park, not pro-standardized tests per se, but I am pro-information. I am pro our teachers knowing where our kids are so they can make better decisions for them. I am pro having an understanding of where our kids are here in Nutley versus other kids elsewhere. if, I know the members of the board will remember, but also the members of the community, it wasn't so long ago when I first took over that we had a huge issue with the grades that we were issuing here in district, because they become dramatically inflated and our kids were applying to colleges, not getting into colleges that they should get into based on grades, only to find out that internal assessments, because they were not anchored to anything external, did not have value. These assessments provide us a significant way of anchoring our work to a much larger whole, by the way, that our students will be competing against when they go out for jobs or to further their education. So it's critical that we have information like this. So my concern was that we would have missed an opportunity. In that, my greatest concern that's arisen out of this is the idea that there is a lot of confusion and questions, and more to the point, misinformation about Nutley that seems to be out there, that people are passing around as if it's fact. And we try to respect every single opinion and the persons who hold those opinions. At the same time, we have to have our conversations based on fact and what actually is. What parents, what students, what teachers decide after that, that's really their own decision. It's a wonderful country we live in where you can make that. However, it has to be based on fact. First piece, the Common Core is not PARC. Common Core is a set of standards that was developed by educators, despite what seems to be being told. Where the funding came from, where the impetus came from, totally different. But the people who sat down at the table to help design the standards, look at the New York Times where they were interviewed, were predominantly educators, classroom educators. If you look at the standards, and New Jersey has had a solid set of standards for a number of years now, Common Core is not terribly different than where we were as a state when it came to standard. Every time we have written and changed standards, there has been argument over it. Every time. And every time, given a few more years, our students have been able to do things they were not able to do before because we challenged ourselves to get them there. So Common Core is one piece. PARC is a separate piece, and PARC is not used, I cannot speak to other districts, but here in Nutley, we got away from using our ASK and our HESPA results for these things. They are not used to make negative determinations about students or teachers here in district. They're used for informational purposes to help us judge our program, our instruction, and to find trends that help us get better. Our curricula is not PARC aligned. Our curricula is aligned to New Jersey Core Content Standards, which is required by law. It has always been that way. And we changed our curriculum through a process, as you saw from Mr. Levine today, of program review where we're looking at how we're doing and figuring out how we can do better. I have, from the get-go, expressed concern over the use of certain data in teacher evaluation. That said, not taking the assessment for that reason seems completely the opposite of an argument against using the assessment for that reason. In the sense that if we are doing our jobs and supporting our teachers and assessing ourselves, having this information is going to do one of two things. It's either going to concur with our findings, in which case it shows the value of both sets of data, or it's going to disagree with our findings, in which case I have gotten up in front of our teachers every year since this became an issue and said that I, and in doing so this board, would not let the state come in and take from us a teacher that we feel is doing his or her job because of a number on a piece of paper. I've said that multiple times. What I will tell you though is, in talking with people at the state, they don't expect that to happen either. I would think that if people are upset with this system of connection, let the system run. And the first time someone who is a phenomenal teacher gets a number that does not make sense and the state tries to hold us accountable and pull them out, I'll be shocked if the state, after we fought for that teacher, would make us do so. But at least then, we have a shot based on fact of determining whether or not this system is working. Saying it's going to work or not going to work before we even try it, though, again, is not based on anything concrete. I was truly concerned with, most important, the idea that the assessment is too hard. Number one, to say it's too hard so it's unfair to teachers, to me makes no sense because the indicator that the state uses has nothing to do with the difficulty of the assessment. It's based on growth. It could be an easy assessment, a hard assessment. As long as every student takes the same assessment, it doesn't matter. As far as the kids, if the test is too difficult, it has to be asked, is it too difficult and unrealistic, or is it too difficult because we need to get kids to be able to do things that they're not doing right now? I have never heard since I've been here in this community, not once, someone tell me that there was in athletics a team that was unbeatable, that there was, that Carnegie Hall was unreachable as an example. that the Gator Bowl is simply too big for our students, or that there was a community service project that just took too much time, so we might as well not bother. Not once. Time and time again, our kids have achieved things that we almost could not believe were possible because we gave them the opportunity and support to do so. I hope that we continue to do those kinds of things. Moving forward, as always, we're here to communicate. We've had 2, 3 parent and community events where we've tried to explain Common Core, Park, our assessment system, what we're doing internally, what we're doing externally. We will continue to do those things, and I hope to see more people at these so we get the appropriate information out. We will be sharing a piece to the Sun and certainly through the PTOs to try and make sure that everyone's clear. Either way, I do want to thank everyone who was involved, and at the end of the day, if you've seen what the state has released, there's an opportunity through this assessment to get better information than we've ever had from the ASK, from the HESPA, from the SAT, from the AP, from the ACT, any of these assessments. If that's possible, and we can actually leverage this information to improve our program and do better by our students, I think it's something we have to at least give a shot.
Thank you, Board Secretary.
Last week, I had the opportunity to meet with the Essex County Business Administrator for a mid-year budget review. This review highlights administrative and non-instructional expenditures and efficient business practices that are identified in the Taxpayer's Guide to Educational Spending. Mr. Ferrara found the district's efficiency costs close to the state averages and ratios, and he will be sending a follow-up letter with any comments. While we were at that meeting, he also discussed the finance DPR for the CUSAC document, and he concurred with the district's ratings in every area. On this evening's agenda, we have several resolutions regarding communications, one of which is to expand on the handheld wireless devices that we are using for security purposes through the district. We're going to be purchasing an additional 22 radios, and the majority of the funds for that purchase is coming from the 2007 referendum. In addition to that, we are also looking at resolutions to improve our telecommunications, most specifically in our internet access, where we will be, we currently are at 100 MB. The new service is going to give us 1,000 GB, which is 10 times the speed, which will help us in servicing all of the student needs, especially as we continue to move into technology-related curriculum activities. During the February break last week, the Buildings and Grounds crew worked on several projects throughout the district. In each of the buildings, they did thorough cleanings and disinfectants. They changed HVAC filters. We painted the ceiling at the gym in Washington School, fixed the lights here in the middle school gym, and started work on the new offices for extended day and residency in the basement level of this building. Our maintenance staff will continue working on that, and this week we're expecting them to be installing the studs and the sheetrock in the office space. Today we received a check in the amount of $500, which is part of a restitution that some juveniles are paying for damage that was done to the grounds on High Five Hill from ATVs that they were having fun with. So that's the first payment that came back to the district. In speaking with the municipal court, they said we should be receiving some additional funds as well. We're also this evening passing a resolution notifying everyone that the public budget hearing will take place in this very room on April 27th at 6:30 p.m. More about that will be discussed at the next meeting when we will be adopting the tentative budget. We're also looking at a 2007 bond refunding opportunity. I won't go into too much detail now because I know Mr. Carnicella has a lot in his Finance Committee report to talk about. And lastly, we are completing the application for the Zoning Board of Adjustment for the new bus lot and the fence. And that will be submitted to the municipality this week.
Thank you, Ms. Means. Okay, this is
Sir, we have community reports first.
who do you want to do? Do it after. Okay. I'll do it next. Any committee reports? Start on that side, Freddie?
We can share it, no problem. You can,
No,
the administration committee met on February the 10th, consisted of Mr. Fleur, Ms. Russo, Mr. Scalera, and myself. We met with the athletic director and the superintendent, talked about our update on the athletic program, discussed CUSAC. We discussed our ongoing negotiations. We reviewed the personnel recommendations that you see before you tonight. We had a legal update from our attorney. We spent some time talking about the re-registration which Mr. Lazovic discussed already. Reviewed the policies that you see before you tonight. And that's pretty much, I think, what we discussed that night. We did spend some time talking about some resolutions that are on here tonight, which are the, Mr. Scalera enlightened me on the telecommunications.
You just might want to make a mention, Mr. Kaczynski, just update on Mr. Power, Mr. Lazovic doing the presentation on what we're doing with the sports, athletics. And
Yeah, I thought we were going to cover it under new business, but we can do it.
Oh, okay.
Well, we can go right into that. I know Mr. Scalera is just itching to talk about our hockey team that played.
No, I'm just talking about what they're presenting on. That's all.
Also, while we're talking about it, there was some news that we received today. If you read the paper, our wrestling team won the district, and I think we have 12 wrestlers going on to the regional. I also found out tonight that 2 of our coaches, or the 2 wrestling coaches, were named coaches of the year for their conference. So it's an ongoing saga, which we're very happy to see.
So I'll mention that I have to, because the hockey team won their conference for the first time, and I say this because that's what's on the banner, but I'll explain it, since 1947. So we really had a hockey program in the 40s. We shut down in the 50s. I won't tell you why. And then it was brought back 17 years ago. And the most exciting thing was, one of our last games, Mr. Harry Mans, that played on the 1947 team, came to support the hockey team at their game. And it was really exciting to have him there. We're going to actually have him speak at the breakfast. So, and they just won their first game tonight in the States. So our hockey program is probably doing the best it's done in the past 17 years that it's been refounded in the district. So I just want to thank the board for always supporting that program.
Do you have a date for the breakfast, Brett?
Date for the breakfast?
The breakfast is, it's actually Palm Sunday, so I think it's March 29th. It's only March 29th, it's 28th or 29th, I apologize, but it's Palm Sunday. And it's always been that way, just the way, because we have to wait, in case we go further in states, or they go in states, we always have to push the date out, so we don't get to do it.
Or with us the invite for that, Mr. Sakara?
Yeah.
Can you send us the invite for that?
Sure, it was just being completed by our secretary, so I will send it out like I always do.
Okay, yes, thank you, report, so we'll go to line minutes. No committee. What we got done, is it Danny, Mr. Farnsell?
Like a finance committee report. Oh, I don't need the mic, I'm good. We met on February 1st. District Bond Counsel, Mr. Anthony Salamini, met with the committee to discuss the refunding opportunity that Mrs. Yemens was discussing on the 2007 referendum bonds. He reviewed the process, board resolutions, financial benefits, and the potential annual debt service tax levy reduction of approximately $120,000 a year. Mrs. Yemens updated the committee on the current year's budget status. She also reviewed the revenue, projected expenditures, and staff needs for 2015-16 budget. Mrs. Yemens reviewed the February 23rd, 2015 finance agenda resolutions, including transfers, contracts, contractor payments, purchase of additional handheld wireless devices, and new contracts for internet and telephone services. Mrs. Yemens updated the committee on the work being completed during the winter break, including the office space on the basement level of the middle school. Committee also discussed the zoning board appeal for the bus lot, the Italian embassy grant, purchase of property, and exploring the possibility of a power purchase agreement for solar energy. Next meeting is scheduled for March 17th.
Thank you, Mr. Farnsell. Danjack?
Yes, the academic committee met on February 10th. We reviewed 2007 bond refunding. We also reviewed curriculum instruction, professional development updates, and field trips. Thank you.
That's it for committee reports. We now come to the portion of our meeting where we allow members of the public to address the board. In this section, we allow questions or comments on only Resolutions addressed in tonight's agenda. Our board regulations allow 20 minutes for each communication. Each person shall be limited to 3 minutes, and we ask you to stay within this requirement. Speakers may speak more than once, only after others wishing to speak on a topic has been heard. All statements will be directed to me as chairperson, and no one may address board members individually. Please be reminded that if your statement is too lengthy, abusive, obscene, irrelevant, or redundant, your participation may be terminated. Please always remember to state your name and address each and every time you address the board. The first person wishing to speak, step up, please.
Yeah, Alex Rubens, 354 Hillside Ave. In the finance resolution number 17 that Ms. Angela mentioned about the bond refunding, if I understand the numbers correctly, I just want clarification, that the original bond from 2007 was for $38.5 million, and it says that you spent $33.2 million. That leaves, what, $5.3 million that is going to be refunded to where?
Want to explain to me, Karen, how it works?
The refunding is actually refunding on the interest rate that we are paying on the debt. So that we will be saving debt service tax levy from year to year. And we'd be refunding $33.2 million worth of bonds. Because the bonds are 25-year-old bonds. So the term of paying back the bonds would still be the initial 25 years.
All right, so it's still the 38.5, but less what was
What's
left
already been
over,
paid.
and it's basically being refinanced.
Yes, exactly. Just like refinancing your mortgage, it's the same concept.
And hopefully at a lower rate?
Oh, yes, because that's how we would be saving approximately $120,000 a year.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else already heard? Okay, Mr. Kaczynski, can you read the Code of Ethics for school board members?
Certainly, Mr. President. Code of Ethics for School Board Members, 18A-12-241-1. Be resolved that the Board of Education hereby adopts the following Code of Ethics as established by the New Jersey School Board Association. A school board member shall abide by the following Code of Ethics for school board members. I will uphold and enforce all laws, rules, and regulations of the State Board of Education and court orders pertaining to schools. Desired changes shall be brought about only through legal and ethical procedures. I will make decisions in terms of the educational welfare of children and will seek to develop and maintain public schools that meet the individual needs of all children, regardless of their ability, race, creed, sex, or social standing. I will confine my board action to policy making, planning, and appraisal. I will help to frame policies and plans only after the board has consulted those who will be affected by them. I will carry out my responsibility not to administer the schools, but together with my fellow board members to see that they are well run. I will recognize that authority rests with the Board of Education and will make no personal promises nor take any private action that may compromise the board. I will refuse to surrender my independent judgment to special interest or partisan political groups, or to use the schools for personal gain or for the gain of friends. I will hold confidential all matters pertaining to the schools which, if disclosed, would needlessly injure individuals or the schools. In other matters, I will provide accurate information and, in concert with my fellow board members, interpret to the staff the aspirations of the community for its schools. I will vote to appoint the best qualified personnel available after consideration of the recommendation of the Chief Administrative Officer. I will support and protect school personnel in proper performance of their duties. I will refer all complaints to the Chief Administrative Officer, compliments to, and will act on the complaints at public meetings only after failure of an administrative solution. I submit this resolution and
Thank you,
can
sir.
our board members all
Okay. All right, so we're going to close our, we have to vote on that right now, so you want to go to vote?
Mr. Cardicello?
Yes.
Mrs. Dancheck Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Ms. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Scalera?
Yes.
Mr. Sposato?
Yes. Mr. Klein, can you read form of academic resolutions?
Yes, Mr. President, I move academic resolutions 1 and 2 as written.
Second.
Any questions?
Mr. Carncello?
Yes.
Mrs. Stancheck Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Ferraro?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Ms. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Scalera?
Yes.
Mr. Sposato?
Yes. Mr. Slater, can you move administration resolutions 1 through 6?
Sure, I move administrative resolutions 1 through 6 as written.
Second.
Any questions on it? Adam?
Mr. Carncello?
Yes.
Mrs. Stancheck Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Ferraro?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Ms. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Scalera?
Yes.
Mr. Sposato?
Yes. Mr. Carncello, can you move finance resolutions 1 through 17?
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to move finance resolution 1 through 17 as written.
Second.
Any questions on it?
Mr. Carncello?
Yes.
Mrs. Stancheck Martin? Yes. Mr. Ferraro?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Ms. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Scalera?
Yes.
Mr. Sposato?
Yes. Ms. Russo, you move personnel resolution number 1?
I'd like to move personnel resolution number 1 as listed. I so move.
Second.
Mr. Carncello?
Yes.
Mrs. Stancheck Martin? Yes. Mr. Ferraro?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Ms. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Scalera?
Yes.
Mr. Sposato?
Yes. Okay, in this section, we'll have questions or comments on all school-related matters. The regulations allow 30 minutes for these communications. Again, each person shall be limited to 3 minutes, and we ask you to try to stay within the requirements. As I stated earlier, all statements will be directed to me. Anyone have any questions on any of the school matters?
Alex Rubin, 354 Hillside Ave. I have 3 comments. I noticed that this year and on next year's calendar that we're no longer observing Veterans Day as a federal holiday. How, did that happen?
Mr. Laddick,
Sorry?
I mean, we vote on that year by year, so I don't know if you got the next 3 years there.
We followed the same pattern we haven't changed any varieties.
This is the first year that I noticed that we did not observe Veterans Day. I believe we did have it last year. That would be 13.
I
We're on to
think,
it right now.
I think we'll take a close look at it.
Yeah.
Let the superintendent look at
And
it.
just so you know, again, with the calendar, we try to follow the pattern that we've always followed. Other than having new days in for professional development, we try to stick with the same academic calendar the town has always had.
Yeah, because that is a significant American holiday that should be observed.
Absolutely.
Secondly, I see that we have treasurer's report and secretary's report, sort of in printed form and available online, but Mr. Lazaruk's report is not online or printed. Can we get that?
We share them with the PTOs, I can certainly put them online.
Right, that would be appreciated. And then regarding the park business, I'm one of the refusers who has refused for whatever reasons that I feel that the park is not educationally appropriate for my children. And they sat and they read today. Would they be subject to have to go to makeup since they were present in attendance, for the sitting today?
We're not allowed to actually look, this is where we follow the state guidelines. We're not allowed to look over someone's shoulder and see what they do or do not do, how much effort they put into the test or not. As far as they were present, they sat for the assessment, that counts for today. They'll sit for the scheduled set of assessments. If they're here present, they go back to class like everyone else.
So even though they didn't touch the computer and didn't log in,
That's not our issue. We have to provide the opportunity for the kids to assess.
so they're marked present in a room, so they have to sit all 5 days this week.
Exactly.
all 5 days again in May.
Wherever the test is scheduled by the state.
Now, since there are, it's like a kid's refusing, I'm not the only one, I know of, a few others, it probably would be more appropriate for them to, sit in the study hall. Because they are sitting out there reading the materials out there anyway, they're more comfortable in the study hall than.
We have to provide the kids with the opportunity to assess. And kids with the park can start assessing at any point in time.
So the bottom line being that since they were present this week, they will not have to go for the
And you
makeup
make that
test.
exactly right.
So they sit the 5 days now, they sit the 5 days in May, and then that's it, they don't.
They sit the assessment like every other student's required to, and then like every other student having sat, and move right back into instruction.
Okay, now, one of my children is beyond Algebra 2, so for those 2 days this week of the math, she comes in late, or?
Follow the same schedule. Information went out from the high schools. We had kids in the building doing other activities, which is one of the reasons we can't even provide separate space, because we're housing all of our students at the same time.
But I see on the schedule that the whole week is blocked, it's like 8:15 to 10 o'clock for park. And then periods 1 and, however they scatter the periods for the rest of the day.
Those students who are not assessing were in other activities in high school.
So they still have to report even though that they're not
Yes.
okay.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard?
Hi, I'm Bridget Renheim, 211 Lakeside Drive. Good evening, everyone. I'm a kindergarten mom at Yanticott, and I'm just following up with the Strategic Communications Committee. We are putting together a group called the Yanticott Advocate. It's just for a place where parents can talk about topics that are going on within our school. And then we would hope that we take a lot of that information back to Board of Education, to superintendent, to principal, and just talk about items that aren't being addressed at our PTO meetings. So one of these was communication. I went online. I think it's fantastic that we have the committees listed on there. And I pulled up the last committee meeting for communication, which was September of 2014. So I'm just looking for an update. Has there been meetings since September 14th, and the minutes of those meetings? Can we get those minutes just to understand what's happening in that committee?
Not sure why the website's not up to date, but all the academies and the rest we run all year long are through the communications committee. So they've met in preparation for those meetings and then in reflection on those meetings based on the attendance and the questions we got from the community. So I don't know why, that was basically the first meeting of the year.
Yeah, so just...
We'll have Mr. Williams, the other thing you could do is contact, Mr. Williams, as the chief administrator on that one. You can do that with any of the committees. If you're not seeing information, you can email them directly. Their emails are literally linked to their names on those pages.
Okay, that's great, and I did see that. I guess overall, my concern is that, can we get those minutes published in a more timely fashion? So this is September, we're in February, it's been 6 months. It's great that we have them, but can we
We
get
get monthly on that, and the expectation is those things are updated by the last day of every month.
they're updated on the website?
Yeah, that's what they're supposed to be.
They're supposed to be, okay, so they're
So
not.
we've gone through with them.
Okay, and then I just had a question I thought was fantastic. We have a communication survey that was sent out on February 10th. How will those results be used and when will they be communicated?
That's what we have to have. We were hoping to have Mr. Beasley, another parent academy on that. There was some interesting information that came from that, so the committee was just sitting down to meet and go through that survey. And that we appreciate. We actually high response rate, much higher than we've gotten in the past. So we're excited about the information. We're going to share a lot of that pretty briefly and talk to our committees at the board level as well. But some interesting feedback. We want to have a public presentation on that, hopefully a conversation along with that.
Okay, there would be a public presentation.
Oh,
on that?
absolutely.
Okay, this year?
Oh, absolutely.
Fantastic. And then the other thing I see is increasing involvement. I mean, I'm really excited to be involved as a parent. And so this is again from September, so obviously there's been more meetings since then. This says, we discussed ways to get parents more involved in the committees because they didn't have a lot of parent involvement. It was not well attended. It says that Blair volunteered to be a PTO liaison to help parents sign up for different committees and relay information. Who's Blair? There's Blair. Yeah, so it would be great, maybe if we can get Blair to come out to Yannicott PTO at least, just to touch base with us. Okay, that's it.
Thank you.
Hi, Kelly Shibili, 50 Mayor Street. I'm just wondering if the board has any concerns about the loss of instructional time to the park. This is concerning to me, not just because of the park, but if you're, let's say, your English language learner population who has to take access in that last month when they take the IDEA at the beginning of the year, and now they're taking, you've got time blocked out for this in March, time blocked out in May. What about all the instructional time that's missing? Is it a concern?
That question's come up with parks specifically. The average student in parks for about 10 hours, which is less than 1% of the total instructional time we have. The information that we could get from this assessment would be far more valuable than we could ever measure anything in that 1%. We actually lose more instructional time at the beginning and ends of periods than we do for actual assessment. When you take certain populations like ESL, we do access them. We're required to do that, but also the information we get from an access assessment, we would never get from a park assessment, so it's further information that helps us service that specific population of students. Park is, it's longer than the other tests. Like I said, it's still at the same time. To put it in perspective, it's less than 1% of the time we have with students. And if the information that we get from that turns out to be anywhere near as valuable as they're talking, it's certainly worth that investment.
Well, that's my follow-up question. Have you seen the type of results that you're receiving back regarding the park? Have you?
Yes, the state released, I'll put on my site, the state released the sample reports, what it would look like. They are far more detailed than we've ever had in the past. One of my concerns is I think at the teacher level, myself being a teacher, I don't think we necessarily maximized the results, the information that we got asked and asked because it was very difficult to find anything meaningful about trends, programs, and the rest because they did not give us very much detail. What concepts, skills, the different assessments related to how our kids did or did not do. If you look at those new reports, we're actually going to receive information beyond just the typical scale score, but by specific areas of skill, depending on the assessment they took, whether it was the third grade language arts or it was the Algebra 1 assessment. There are different skill sets linked to our standards that we teach that we also measure with our internal assessment. The other piece, though, is that we're going to get scores based on where students fall in district against the rest of the kids in district that took the assessment, and where the district and the student fell against the people in the state and across the park consortia, which we haven't had in the past. States across the country use different assessments, and for a long time you could never tell from one to the next what a score was. This gives us a lot more information as far as if our kids are going to apply to schools outside of the state, or other kids are coming into the state to apply to our schools, where we need to be in order to be competitive so our students have the opportunities waiting for them after K-12.
I would be interested to see those.
Absolutely. Again, to be fair, I haven't seen a real one. No one has seen a real one because they don't exist yet. They gave the samples and what they are going to look like based on the way the assessments are built. They were shared actually in New Jersey Spotlight, had them up. The governor's office released them. And
what I've seen has been really big, and it was just like a few categories, but that would be interesting to see. There's only 10 states, I think, left in the consortium now, so it's not, we're not getting that much information regarding nationwide. It was planned to be, obviously, because they wanted us all to.
Exactly.
But in following up with that, as far as Common Core is concerned, the state standards, earlier you said that the curriculum here is aligned with New Jersey, the CCCS.
Yes.
And is that still required, or are we going to have curriculum aligned with Common Core?
It's required that we align as a public school our curriculum to the core content standards, the CCCS. The CCCS, though, going back to 2009 for language arts and math, is Common Core.
Okay, so have we changed, for example, the curriculum in language arts literacy or mathematics as far as the series that we're using in the curriculum?
We don't change our curriculum to match the series. We pick a series that supports the curriculum. So what we do is we take the standards, which we hadn't done in 09 when I wrote QSAC, because we had not aligned our math and language arts curricula to those standards. So we quickly did that, but then went through a more specific program review on that 5-year cycle. In doing that, we align our curriculum with the standards the state requires. And then we went about finding what resources, as Mr. Levine talked, every program is different. So in math, we selected Math in Focus with a team of teachers and parents and et cetera, after looking at the curriculum. We did the same thing with language arts. Instead of buying another Basil series, we bought thousands and thousands of books to put in the classrooms so that kids could be picking books in various genres that are more specific to their level. And that teachers wanted to be teaching skills, but to the level of students at, you couldn't do that unless you had the books. So we pick our resources to match the curriculum.
Okay, then I want to drag it out more, but are there plans, because I know there's budgeting for next year, whatever, based on the results of PARC, wherever the deficiencies may be, are there plans then to address them with some new curriculum or some new supplies or whatever coming in?
As Mr. Levine mentioned, one of the things that we do when we start the program review, that was one of the key pieces of the strategic plan, is to put something in place in districts so our program was always where it was supposed to be. The very first thing we do is we look at the impact the current program is having. The parks will hopefully inform that in ways that we haven't been able to before, so we can see where we're being successful, what has to be retooled, refined, maybe more professional development or a different resource, and then we'll go from there. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I look forward to seeing if we get that information.
Me too.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard at this time? Seeing none, I'm going to close that part. Any old business? Any old business to talk about? Any new business?
You just pretty much talk about our fundraiser for the fitness center. Mr. Pyro, myself, and Bill Jernick from the Elks have been putting together and working on now for a month or two to add an aerobic center, or I should say a cardio center, to the high school. We're going to take some unused space that's an old locker room. And right now with all our sports going, basically two teams can fit into the weight room, and then other teams can't. So now we're building a cardio center attached to that, and that's what we're fundraising for. So if 2 sports today are using the workout room, 2 sports can use the cardio room, and the next day you can switch. So we can accommodate 4 sports after school. Also during our gym periods, the weight room is overrun, and when they're trying to do things, especially when we can't use the oval, it'll give us more time and be accessible. So that program and that fundraiser is Friday night. It's from 7 to 11. Tickets are available. From 7 to 9, it'll basically be, food and those type of things. And from 9 to 11, tables will come down, and we have a band performing, and it'll be a $20 cover starting at 9 o'clock. That includes the beer, wine, and soda coming in. We're going to have some raffles and things like that. It's really thanks to Mr. Kaczynski's help with some clubs. We've had clubs and old class of 1964, and a lot of great donations come in so far. We think we're going to reach at least 3/4 of our goal to be able to have some equipment in that room next year and have some construction and some use happening there. So if anybody come out and support it, we'd love to. The board members, I sent each a flyer, so if you can distribute that and let me know. Mr. Kaczynski's already responded. We'd like to draw some support that night and see if we can also get some other people. The sales of the tickets have been going very well, so we think it would be very successful. And just want to thank Mr. Powell for putting it together.
You set up a table for us, right? For board members?
So I do, then depending if it's just you and me, Charlie, then I'll throw others in, but I did reserve a table for us, depending how many we get, yes.
Okay, anyone else? Any new business?
I just have a question. How will that impact our locker room?
So what we're doing is if you've come down the stairs, to right, the weight room is where the old wrestling room was, so if you come down those stairs, if you go to the right when you come down the stairs, there's like some old lockers in that room there, and then goes back into the further part of the locker room. So that'll be walled off to the further part back of the locker room. When you come down those stairs, you go to the right to the workout room, to the left to the cardio room.
So there'll still be plenty of room for example, football?
We talked to the athletic director about this. Who's kind of key in moving forward, as well as the high school principal and the coordinator of health and PE, to make sure that space was somewhat used by the freshman teams, but not really. We have more than enough space according to all the coaches to put everyone in the main locker room.
So when we have football games, the visiting team?
They use a separate locker room.
Correct.
So where are they?
They're on the other side of the gym.
With the girls?
Exactly. Yeah, my understanding.
What we also did, just to make it so that everybody know, we brought in all of the presidents of all the booster clubs in the high school. They tremendously love the idea. Each booster, almost each booster, the larger booster clubs have tables. Other booster clubs are doing donations. From all the booster clubs, tremendous support for this idea.
Okay, at this point, whereas the Board of Ed will be discussing matters exempt from the public discussion pursuant to NJSA 10-4-12, now therefore be resolved that the Board of Education recess to close executive session at this time to discuss student matters. Be it further resolved that the results of this discussion will be made public by inclusion on the agenda of subsequent meeting of the Board of Education, or when reasons for discussing such matters in closed session no longer exist. Motion to go into executive. All in favor?